Unity of the Huachucas presents Reverend Jonathan Zenz.
Spring into the flow.
Have you ever truly contemplated yourself in the mirror? I'm hearing a lot of yeses, and I'm hearing a lot of, I don't know. You know, there's a spiritual practice that we sometimes go to, which is, to do what we call mirror work. It's a spiritual practice. It's also used in the theater a lot for actors to do mirror work. And we look at ourselves in the mirror and we really contemplate what is it that we are actually seeing in the mirror. When you look in the, and this is a rhetorical question, when you look in the mirror, what is it you are seeing? I really want you to think about that, because, yeah, ostensibly you're seeing a reflection of yourself. But what is yourself? What is your self? And I'm going to say self. Let's capitalize that S, which means what is the divine essence behind just what we perceive to be the reflection? Just think about that for a moment, because what you see in the mirror may not be exactly what you think you see. There's a great contributor to the New Thought spiritual philosophy, Thomas Troward. He's one of my favorite writers. He comes along later in the progression of the development of the New Thought tradition. He offered this, and I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. He said this: spirit creates by self-contemplation. So let's start there. Spirit creates by self-contemplation. Therefore, what it contemplates itself as being, that it becomes. That's like fundamental New Thought 101. Spirit, God, the infinite power and presence of all creation, it contemplates, and what it contemplates itself as being, that it becomes. So Spirit contemplated itself as being this. All of this, everything that exists, Spirit has contemplated itself as being all that is, right? He continues on, Troward. He says, you, speaking to us, you are individualized spirit. Therefore, what you contemplate yourself as being, that you become. You have the power of infinite creation because you are individualized spirit. And what you contemplate yourself as being, that you become. Now, that has great news, right? Because it's basically the promise saying we can create the lives we would like to create. We can create lives of abundance. We can create lives of infinite loving relationships. We can create lives of absolute health. We can create lives of glorious expression. But it's also a call to say, well, what lives have we been creating? Because I can look back on my life and see some stuff that I've created. Yeah. And I can go down a path of saying, well, yeah, I created that, and how do I feel about that creation? Because I might start to blame myself if I take to heart the idea that as an individualized expression of spirit, I created that, and then I might start beating myself up for it. That is absolutely worthless to do that. So I just want you to know that. Absolutely worthless to do that. Irrespective of what you created in the past, you are born anew in this moment to create something new, something more constructive, something more loving, something more progressive. And we are each evolving as spirit in every single moment because our minds are facets of the infinite mind. And so the question really is, this is the fundamental question: how are you choosing to use Spirit's creative nature that is your creative nature here and now? And letting go of anything that has preceded this moment, how are you choosing to use it now? Because, as the great master teacher Jesus said, it is done unto you as you believe. Your beliefs are creating the constructs of your life. And you get to choose that. I mentioned it earlier, and I knew that this was going to be part of what I wanted to talk about today, which is why I said one of the principles that we teach is choice and action. We choose to live from these principles, and we activate them in our lives should we decide to choose them and activate them. But you don't have to. No one's requiring you to do it. But what I have found in my life is that the application of these principles, the application of recognizing that I am in a state of infinite choice, has enhanced the quality of my experience, because I don't blame anything outside of myself for what shows up in my life. I got over blaming God for the stuff that was going to happen. Boy, there was a word, the choice word that almost came out there. And I've had some stuff happen in my life. But what's the point of blaming something outside the self? What if we took responsibility to know that I am empowered in this moment to do something, to be something, to allow something new to unfold? We just had the spring equinox. I know it feels like summer. If some of you are connected with me in social media, I posted, I got into my car the other day. I got my hair cut on Thursday, and I got into the car after my haircut. And you know how you have the temperature that reads on your dashboard? 106 degrees on Thursday, the last day of winter. And so I posted the picture of my dashboard. It said, it's the last day of winter, but it's a dry heat. So we just had the spring equinox, and I think that we can look at the spring equinox as a metaphor, right? I mean, it's not uncommon that we use these kinds of events as metaphor. And the metaphor is this, that life is always moving toward greater expression of itself. That's the nature of spring. I love, and I know a lot of people think that the Palo Verde trees are causing them distress. Go look it up. It's not the Palo Verde trees. It's something else that's blooming, but it's not the Palo Verde trees, but I love the yellow blossoms of the Palo Verde trees. And I love seeing everything exploding into color right now. It's just absolutely exquisite. And that is the nature of life itself. It is always seeking expression. And it is always seeking expression by means of each and every one of us. So something is always ready to bloom, to open, and to emerge, and it's always ready within each and every one of us. That's living in the absolute flow. That's living in the absolute flow. So the question really then is, are we resisting it? Are we in resistance to that flow, or are we in alignment with that flow? It took me a long time to stop resisting the flow, to be okay with saying, yeah, all is well. And I can live and be and thrive just as I am in the here and now, because this is it. This is the only thing that exists, the here and now. The past no longer exists. The future does not exist. This is it, right here, right now. And so I go back to that question that kind of starts this whole line of thought. If I'm standing there looking at myself in the mirror, what am I contemplating myself as being? What am I contemplating myself as being? I'm not going to tell you what my answer is. I want you to understand what your answer is. What am I contemplating myself as being? And how is that working for me? How is that working for me? Is it a contemplation of self that is in support of a thriving life? Or is it something else? And who then is in charge of addressing it if it is something other than thriving? Because if I can no longer put blame on anything outside the self, if I can no longer put blame on God or on anybody else in my life, I used to blame people for my life. Glad I got over that. Taking responsibility, how's that working for me? And am I ready to become something else? And to know that there's an infinite divine power of creation that is who and what I am. It is who and what each and every one of us is. And we have the capacity to create something else infinitely. It can be whatever we decide for it to be. That's the promise. That's the promise of the New Thought spiritual philosophy. We can create extraordinary lives. We can create extraordinary lies. Lies. That was maybe a little Freudian slip. I can look back on my life and say, yes, there were times in my life where I think I created extraordinary lies. I don't do that anymore. But I can also create extraordinary life as me. So flow, we've been talking about flow this whole month. The theme has been flow. Flow is not just about circumstances progressing smoothly in a linear fashion in our lives. It's about being in the consciousness of moving deliberately in all aspects of being. That's what flow is about. It's about knowing that we're always part of the infinite. And we can never be separate from it. It is absolutely impossible to be separate from the infinite. Absolutely impossible. And the minute we think that we're separate from the infinite, we are inviting discord into our lives. And so the call today is to embody this idea of being one as the one power, the one presence, the one unified wholeness. The first two principles are God is all there is, and that's who and what we are. We cannot be separate from it. So let us move deliberately through, in, and as consciousness itself, and also open up to the idea of always wondering, considering what are we consenting to be in any given moment. I have in my life consented to be a very unkind person. Not anymore. Deb's eyes just went, what? Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a time in my life where I was not so kind. But I was living in reaction to things outside the self. I was living in reactivity. And it's very easy to live in reactivity. I could be in a reactive state to everything that is happening in the world around us, or I can be the point of creation for the peace that it is that I choose to experience in my day-to-day life. I know I talk about this peace candle all the time. This peace candle is one of the most important symbols for me in this entire sanctuary. Because, like I say, it never turns off. We keep this peace candle consistently illuminated. I know that it's a fake candle, so we're not breaking any fire codes or anything like that. But it was so important to me that I asked that we wire it so that it's not battery operated. It's actually plugged in. But the idea that this light is always illuminated no matter what, as a reflection of that light inherent in each and every one of us, it's one of the most important symbols that, for me, that I've adopted in my passion for ministry. Do you recognize the light within yourself? Open up to the realization that irrespective of what you think about that light, whether you think that it has been extinguished or not, it is alive within you. It is part of who you are. It can never be extinguished. All we can do is try to dim it. Open up. Open up in this moment to a greater realization that you are the light of life itself. You are the light of love itself. You are the light of divinity itself. Begin to understand that when you look in the mirror, that is what you see. And the truth of us, actually, is what is behind the seeing. What I mean by that is, we are not necessarily the form we see in the mirror. We are that which is doing the seeing. The truth of us is that which is doing the seeing. All we see in the mirror is a representation. But there's a truth behind that representation that is more profound than any physical form. We engaged the beginning of our prayer chaplain training yesterday. Spent some time with some glorious new recruits in our prayer chaplain team. And one of the things that we do invite is this call for the prayer chaplains, that when we are looking and working with people in our spiritual community in prayer work, that our job as ministers, as spiritual leaders, as prayer chaplains, is to look beneath the effect, to look past the effect that anyone may come to us with. Someone may come to me and say, you know what, I'm having a really challenging time financially. We look past the effect because financial challenge is not part of divinity itself. Abundance is an aspect and expression of divinity. And so we look through the financial challenge, the effect, and we affirm the spiritual truth of infinite abundance on behalf of that individual and on behalf of ourselves. Because the other thing I tell all the prayer chaplains, I say, work your stuff out, because that which you have not worked out, I guarantee you the people that come to you for prayer are going to be working on the stuff you're working on. It's the nature of things. It's the law of attraction working itself out. And so work it out. Know the truth. Embody the truth. Embody the principle. Look beneath the effect. Look through the effect. Deepen into a causative awareness. And so the invitation is really to take responsibility for our lives. That's the full invitation today, to take responsibility. But we don't need to do so with any sense of shame or blame, because that will get us nowhere. It only holds us back. You needn't use your mind to reinforce old fears or old identities or old limitation, but instead align with infinite truth, align with infinite possibility, and align with infinite power, because each and every one of us is an expression of infinite truth, an expression of infinite possibility, and an expression of infinite power. That is the truth of our identity. When we stop living as victims of appearance, we start living from empowered spiritual authority. That is our DNA. Y'all know that I like initialisms and acronyms. And our DNA is inherent in who we are, right? So you know what our DNA is? It is our divine natural authority. That is the truth of our being. Remember who you are. You are the divine natural authority of your life. Everything flowing in your life is the result of something in your use of this infinite mind, your use of this infinite consciousness. It is rooted in a belief system that is either working for you or not, but you get to decide what your belief system is. No one can decide that for you except yourself. So, what have I accepted in appearances as real in my life? That's a great question to ask. What have we accepted in the world of appearance as real? And is that the final answer? I can tell you the answer is no. The answer is always no. Even if it seems like the most magnificent expression of spirit we could possibly comprehend, there's always something more, because spirit is infinite. And the nature of the infinite is there is always something more to be expressed. So what have we accepted in the realm of appearance as real? If it's not working for you, the work is to change mind, knowing you're part of the infinite flow. What might change when I remember that I am the one doing the seeing? Spring is a season of emergence. And flow, being in the flow is not about forcing anything. It's about consenting to that deeper movement of life inherent in each and every one of us. Because spiritual life is expressed as individual life. The wholeness of us is spiritual. You can never be more spiritual than you are right now, because you are 100% spirit. You are 100% divine. You are 100% God. So perhaps the call is actually simple. Contemplate the self more truthfully as spirit. Use mind more intentionally as spirit, and spring into the flow of life. Peace and blessings. You are magnificent. For those of you who are new to our community, one of the things that I offer every week is a way that we can take the message of the day and apply it practically in our lives. We call it the life practice, and this is the life practice that I'm offering this week. If you find yourself in a challenge or difficult circumstance, anyone ever have that? Take a moment to place your hand on your heart in that challenge or difficult circumstance and remind yourself, I choose to see this through the eyes of spirit and not the limited experience or appearance. That's the word. I choose to see this through the eyes of spirit and not the limited appearance. Allow yourself to take that as a practice. If you'd like to take a photograph of the slide, it is also always posted on our website after the service, usually by Monday. So please do take advantage of the practices that we offer here.